Sunil, I'll start with you. Virat Kohli.
I'm the opening batsman.
You're the opening batsman. We've got two opening batsmen.
Yeah,
So,
but the senior guy gets to open.
so
Take
you
the first
decide,
ball.
you want to take first strike?
Yeah, absolutely, always. In Test cricket, I always took the first ball because invariably what used to happen was the fast bowlers would take a little time to come at their fastest. So the first ball would always be a loosener, and you had a very, very good chance of getting off the mark. Because the one thing that I dreaded most was getting a pair, which is getting zero in both innings of a Test. So that was my biggest dread. Fortunately, I never did end up with a pair in any class of cricket. But that first run was so important. Because at the end of the day, it's not just, basically, I want to make sure that I didn't really live up to the nil part of my name.
See, I was a more generous soul than Sonny. I would allow Sonny to take the first
Take first
ball.
strike? Okay.
Yeah.
So coming to India and the World Cup and Virat, I mean, the way the team has been playing over the last couple of years, peaking at the right time, how hopeful are you? Is it an India-England final at this point in time? Potentially, are they the favourites? Do we have it in us to lift the trophy on the 15th of July?
Well, it certainly is, if I might just take a little bit of time, certainly is an India-England final. With the two Australians around. But I don't want the Australians. Two against one, two against two. But yeah, I think it's an India-England finals. I won't go for the result.
Okay, you reserve that. Matthew, at this point?
I think it's probably a three-horse race, actually. Australia should be there, India and England. I think just being at home, they've been a very seasoned campaigners over the last 18 months. They play England to an extremely disciplined game plan as well. Could it be their time? They often feel the home pressure as well, England. So I think actually that gives both Australia and India a greater chance. But certainly England will be, they'll be hard to beat at home.
Michael, you are happy to say Pakistan if you want to.
Look, I believe the most courageous team will win the World Cup. I think the team that's not scared of losing. I think the team that's willing to pick, particularly in England conditions, their most attacking team. I think at the moment Australia is probably, in regards to selection, are trying to compete versus trying to win. In regards to some of the people they're picking, I think they're trying to make 250, 260 runs and back their bowlers to win them games. I think in the UK you're going to need 350, 380 to win games at this World Cup. So I think your selections have got to be courageous. And the greatest thing about this current World Cup, there's probably 5 or 6 teams that can win it. So the key is going to be try and make it to the semi-finals. And then once you make it to the semi-finals, on any given day, one player can win you that World Cup.
Mr. Prasad, he says selection has to be courageous. I mean, is your selection committee now ready with their vision? Because it's exactly 1 month to go for the final team to be announced.
Absolutely, I totally agree with what Michael said, that the team that has got the right mix, the right blend, with who can play a high intensity with good intent, then that team is definitely going to win, and I'm 100% sure our team has got that.
Sunny bhai, Virat, coming to Virat specifically. Virat the batsman, Virat the captain. Does he overdo it as captain? Is it pressure? He's done very well as captain, as a batsman as well. Do you think the batsman-captain combo, if Virat Kohli does go on to win the World Cup, the debate that he's the greatest is settled? Because no one has done that, beaten Australia and goes on to win the World Cup.
I think the best thing for Virat really is the fact that he's got Mahendra Singh Dhoni around as the wicketkeeper. And you see him every time he's playing towards the end when the fielders are well spread out, and Virat being one of our top fielders has to be in the deep to make sure he takes those catches, saves those boundaries. He's in the deep, and from the deep it's not always possible to be able to move those square fielders because you're not in a very good position. And that's where MST comes into play, MST moving the fielders just a little bit to the left or to the right, telling the bowler what to do. I think that is Virat's biggest plus.
I think we should really appreciate the chemistry between both. Otherwise, it would have been the other way around, because the captain, somebody else is setting the field. I think both of them share mutual respect, and that chemistry is definitely going to help Indian team to win the World Cup.
Yes, I think that's certainly a huge plus for Virat. Then the other big plus is the fact that he's got a bowling attack, which very few captains, Indian captains, have had in the past. Attacks which can bowl in any kind of conditions, not just Indian conditions. Attacks which can, take wickets. Because at the World Cup, if you keep taking wickets, you're really pushing the opposition back. You don't want a situation where the opposition gets to the 40th over, 260 for 3, 260 for 2, then you're pretty certain that in the next 10 overs they're going to get another 130, 140, so you're looking at chasing 390. That is not likely to happen with this Indian attack. Yes, there will be teams that might get to 280, 300, maybe a little over 300 as well, but then the Indian batting is capable of going past that as well. So I think that's also one of the big pluses as far as Virat's concerned. So I think all round, the team that he's got, the team that is being molded by MSK, his co-selectors and the team captain as well as the management, I think they're moving in the right direction. They're moving in the right direction because at the end of the day, it's, these little sort of, places which make the difference is what these 4-5 matches are going to tell us, and the early matches of the World Cup. And if over there the selection's done properly, and I do hope that the BCCI sends the selection committee to the matches from the first match itself, so that they're constantly, consulting each other. What happens in a selection, and I've been part of the selection committee because I've been the captain, and even Virat as the captain is a non-voting member. He doesn't have a vote. Indian captains don't have a vote. But sometimes the captain is not available because, they're playing. But the selection committee in their meetings have, got a certain way of, thinking. And that, if it is not conveyed properly to the team management, sometimes, they are not on the same page. And to try and avoid that, I believe that the selection committee, or at least 3 members of the selection committee should be in England. So that constant message of what has been their thought process is also with the team management. And then you make the final 11 selection, which is exactly what you want, which is going to win the match for you.
Michael, you've told me many times that the Australian team in 2015 was not the favorite in that sense. But you all went ahead and won the World Cup on home soil, second time after 2011. This whole tag of India favorite, even in the FIFA World Cup or many tournaments we see this, not the best player goes on to win. Do you think this might be a problem for India, this whole favorite tag, the build-up? If you see the way we are playing T20 cricket, maybe we are not taking the format seriously at the moment. So the whole focus is on the 50-over World Cup. Is this good or bad?
I don't think there's anything wrong with being the favourites. I think that's all about attitude. I think back to 2007 when Australia won the World Cup in the Caribbean, we were the favourites of that tournament. And we went through undefeated, didn't lose a game. And I think being the favourites probably enhanced our attitude that we wanted to play like we were the favourites as well. Yes, we had so much experience in that team, which made that a lot easier as well. Sometimes I do believe, though, if you put a tournament or a game on a pedestal, if you make it so high, it can be hard to reach sometimes. And that has been my only concern about India's approach in the first 2 T20s against Australia in this current series, that they're not too concerned about whether they win or lose those games. And then listening to Virat talk after the last T20, these ODIs, their approach is going to be the same. They're going to try certain players to try and work out who they're going to take in their 15 to the World Cup. That would be a little bit different to my personal approach. My attitude leading up to the World Cup was let's try and win every game we can to get momentum and get confidence into our group. Leading up to the one-day World Cup in 2015, we probably knew the 13 out of the 15 players that were going to be picked. We probably the last 2 spots were out of 6 or 7 different players. Yet it was dictated by what the conditions were going to be like, and what did you want, an extra fast bowler, did you want an extra spinner, did you want a second wicket keeper? So I would imagine, and we've got the chairman of selectors for India here, I would imagine 13 out of the 15 they probably already know. It's just the last 2 positions. And my approach would be to try and win every game I can leading up to that World Cup. And yes, it's about building momentum through the tournament. People are right when they say it's no good winning the first, 5 round robin games and then get to the semi-final and lose. But I think any time you win, that builds confidence in your group. To win a World Cup, you want each individual feeling at the top of their game.
Mr. Prasad, before I go to Matthew with the same question, this is a slightly tricky one, but we don't get to ask you every day. What is your approach to the IPL? We keep hearing there is a chance of burnout. There is, player fatigue. Faster bowlers might get injured. Do you want these players to play till the last game of the IPL? Or do you want the BCCI, you included, chairman of the selection committee, to request the franchises, speak to them to allow the players to rest? Can that be an important factor for India going into the World Cup?
Well, I have a different view on IPL. IPL is an Indian international tournament which offers so many complex pressure situations. Rather than just sitting and training, you'll have to go through so many pressure situations, be it with batting or bowling or fielding. This IPL offers so competitive atmosphere. If you see the example of 2013 Champions Trophy or a 2017 Champions Trophy, we did extremely well because prior to that, we played IPL. So this IPL is only going to help the players to, by preparing these pressure situations, which otherwise will not offer. Normal bilateral series will definitely not offer. So I feel that there is nothing wrong in playing IPL. And I was just discussing with Sanibhai, he was also saying that it's just a 4 overs. What is more important is, other than those 4 overs, how they keep themselves fit is very much important. But this IPL is only going to help Indian team to be in the right frame of mind prior to
Matthew,
the World Cup.
if that is the case, then what explains Australia pulling out Mitchell Starc? What explains other teams pulling out their best bowlers? If IPL is to help, what explains these international boards protecting their best players and not allowing them to play IPL?
Well, Mitchell Starc can't stay in the park for Australia, let alone wherever you play in the IPL. So it's about preservation of a great resource and asset. You could ask the same questions. Do you see any Indian players coming over and playing in the Big Bash League? So it's all about, I guess, identifying where and when you have a vision and how you can apply that vision to your particular situation. I mean, I have a slightly different position from what I've heard so far. I think the IPL is certainly about an opportunity on the national stage for scouting, which is a huge... Your role within Indian cricket is an enormous role. And I think it's a role which, would we have discovered Makunde, for example, Rishabh Pant, you could list about 10 players actually, without the IPL? I think the answer is probably no. So it becomes a very important talent scout for Indian cricket. See kids that come into situations, high pressure situations, which they wouldn't otherwise get in Ranji Trophy and other competitions domestically. Now they're thrust into an environment where they play with a Michael Clarke. They're enabled by international thinking, flavoured by that touch of cricket. They get to know their opposition, which I think is a key asset, especially going into tournaments like the World Cup. So it's a discovery session, and I think your job, sir, is not actually just to pick this World Cup, it's actually to pick 2 World Cups. So Michael Clarke in 2007 was a valuable member of the World Cup winning squad, but then he goes on to captain Australia and win the World Cup at home. So that's a blueprint of Australian cricket, which has been very strong, having a very strong vision and identity and purpose within its range of players to be able to create a winning environment, which it's done for decades. And suddenly, on the eve of this World Cup, and we don't talk about one-day cricket, do we, until it's a World Cup? And we rarely talk about Test cricket as well, unless it's a premium event. Like an India-Australia or a...
India-England
India-England, India-Pakistan. These are series that are so significant at Test match cricket, but what's the relevance to it all?
Okay, now this is something I've got to ask. Assuming India is playing Pakistan in the World Cup in a multinational competition, as of now the match is still on. We don't know what happens. We are not the ones to decide. If it does go on, Mr. Gavaskar, given the current context, will our players be under added pressure? Will they feel this is war minus the shooting? What is going on outside of the field? Does this make this match that much more difficult if you're an Indian player?
I don't think so. I think our players are professional enough to know that this is a game of cricket that they've got to win. I don't think they're going to be swayed by the circumstances around it over the last fortnight or so. So I don't think it's going to make any difference there. And that is where great teams come up. Great teams forget everything around them, and they focus only on the game. Focus only on the next ball, whether you're a batsman or a bowler. You forget the previous ball. If you've hit it for a boundary, you've been dropped, you played and missed. As a batsman, you forget. You just focus on the next ball. And I think that's what's going to happen with our team as well. I don't think they're going to be sure. I think going into the hotel, going to eat in the restaurant, there will be guys who will be around them, who will be probably saying things. But that happens, in normal circumstances as well.
I just want to share my heart, really, and that is to say that cricket is a beautiful game. It's a game that elevates and almost levitates across global issues, world issues, significant issues that, how can you ever take away loss? Doesn't matter, what loss that is. And in any place in the world, life is as important as anyone on the planet. So, for mine, I really pray and hope that cricket prevails. It's lasted depressions, wars, anarchy, and its governance is a very difficult decision to make, as does the respective countries. But, from an Australian point of view, I pray that there is full memberships. I think it's an exciting format, a round-robin format, back to the 1992 format. There's nowhere to hide. You have to play every country.
Michael, Sachin tells me that before the 2003 World Cup, 1 year before that, his friends, everyone would go and tell him, beat Pakistan, our World Cup is done. Now that's different. That's a different pressure. Is it actually possible for a player to extrapolate himself and say, oh, it's another cricket match, it's another cricket ball that I'm facing, or this is a stance that sports people, all of you people, will have to take to divert people like us, the media, from putting this pressure on you?
I think there's no doubt we feel the emotion of every person. I think playing in a World Cup or an Ashes series or a tour to India, as well prepared as you are, and I prepared the same whether I was playing against Bangladesh, South Africa, Sri Lanka, England, India. My preparation was the same, but there's no doubt you feel the emotion of a major tournament. And I believe everybody competing at the World Cup will have that emotion. I believe there will be parts of that when India does play Pakistan. But again, I agree with everybody that's spoken about already on the panel that, cricket it's still a game. And I think the players will, as much as they read the media and watch the news, once you step onto that field, it's instilled in your brain, that muscle memory takes over, and as a batsman, your job is to watch the ball and react. As a bowler, your job is to bowl the ball. As a fieldsman, it's to, chase the ball or catch the ball, and no matter how emotional you are, or no matter what's going on around you, once you step onto that field, that's all we know.
Okay, so batsman, you see the ball, react, my time is up. As bowler, see the ball, react. Commentator, panelist, microphone, react. 15 seconds, who are the two finalists?
India versus Australia final.
Don't tell me Australia wins. You're not going out of this hall.
And Australia wins by 1 run.
Okay, I'll give Sunil Gavaskar the last word to counter that. Matthew Hayden, finalists.
I have no idea, I've got to say. I'm going to go with Michael Clarke.
Australia wins by 1 run?
No, by 2 runs.
By 2 runs. MSK Prasad.
I don't mind any team coming opposition, but India will definitely be there for finals to win the World Cup.
Or anybody else? India in the final?
We don't mind playing against
Mr. Gavaskar, last word.
Yeah, India. Well, India winning the World Cup. Who are the finalists? If it's England, I think it'll be really, really fantastic to beat England in the finals. England knocked out for say 120, and 121 for no loss India in just 15 overs.
Fabulous. That's why we love Sunil Gavaskar. And there's a postscript to that. Virat Kohli, on record, on India Today, has told us, if India wins the final, he will run bare-chested, six-pack on Oxford Street with half of his team. So wait for those visuals in the next India Today Conclave. Thank you, Michael Clarke, Sunil Gavaskar, MSK Prasad, and Matthew Hayden.